A young woman named Siobhan, a dedicated biology student, spends her time researching the mysteries of the deep sea and its strange creatures. While her classmates gather together at a lively workplace party, she remains detached and uninterested, preferring instead to stay focused on her studies. Her professor eventually notices her absence, grows frustrated, and reminds her that she should be socializing with her peers. He tells her to relax, enjoy herself a little, and prepare properly for her upcoming trip before she leaves in annoyance.
Your hands dirty. Make a few friends.
Determined to continue her work, Siobhan arranges to spend an entire week aboard a fishing trawler where she will accompany a crew of 6 people. She first meets Johnny, who escorts her to the boat. Once aboard, she is introduced to the rest of the crew. The group is made up of the captain, Gerard, his wife Freya, an engineer named Omid, another engineer named Sudi, and Johnny's aunt Kiara. Johnny helps her settle in and introduces her to Kiara, and later she is formally welcomed by Gerard and Freya as well.
Viking keeps us all afloat.
Siobhan, is it?
Before the vessel departs, Omid and Sudi carefully inspect the ship's engine to ensure it is in proper condition. The captain soon arrives, reminding everyone that outstanding payments must be taken care of after the trip is complete. It becomes clear that Gerard is struggling financially and is depending on this particular voyage to cover his expenses. In spite of these concerns, the crew finalizes preparations, and together they set out into the open sea.
All right, I'll make it up to you.
Freya eventually strikes up a conversation with Siobhan and asks her what she does. Thinking Freya meant her profession, Siobhan begins describing her studies and research interests in detail. Freya interrupts and clarifies that she was asking about Siobhan's plans for the trip itself. Siobhan explains that her intention is to search for anomalies in the water, take photographs, dive beneath the surface, and carry out her research on marine life.
And, I need to do a short dive.
Tension arises when Sudi notices that Siobhan has red hair. He becomes visibly angry, although the reason for his frustration is not entirely clear. Gerard and Freya, however, remain silent, knowing they cannot change anything now since they have already accepted the payment Siobhan provided. With the matter left unresolved, the crew begins their journey out to sea. Life aboard the trawler quickly proves difficult. There are only 4 beds available, which means the entire crew must take turns sleeping in short shifts. Siobhan learns that each person only gets about 2 hours of rest at a time. She worries about how such limited sleep will affect their performance and safety, but Johnny reassures her that they have no other choice and that everyone is used to it. As Siobhan explores more of the boat, she is impressed by the careful design of its structure. She learns that Omid was the one who designed it, and she admires his creativity and technical skill. Surprised that someone so talented is still working a low-wage job, she asks him about it. Omid replies calmly that he is waiting for the right opportunity. Later on, Gerard and Freya plan the route of the voyage. After some discussion, they decide to take a risk and cross into a restricted zone. Although they both know such an action is forbidden, they believe it could prove more profitable than following the standard course. Earlier, the Coast Guards had warned them that entering the zone was dangerous and had advised a safer alternate path, but Gerard dismissed their caution in favor of the potential reward. That evening, Siobhan comes across the crew gathered together for dinner. Feeling awkward and out of place, she quickly excuses herself, claiming she is not hungry. Her introverted nature keeps her from joining the others, and she instead tries to get some rest. Unable to sleep, she climbs up to the deck with a book and begins reading.
You out here every night?
Before long, Freya joins her and draws her attention to the shimmering bioluminescent lights in the sea. To break the silence, Freya shares a tale about a young woman who once lost her partner. The grief was so overwhelming that she surrendered herself to the ocean, and ever since, her hair was said to light up the waters at night. Siobhan listens politely, but doesn't buy the story. The first night at sea passes uneventfully, and the following morning the crew spots whales near the trawler. Siobhan is astonished, pointing out that whales rarely approach vessels and almost never gather in such large numbers. Soon it becomes clear that many more whales are congregating roughly a mile away, an unusual and unsettling sight.
Another shoal dead ahead. Less than a mile. It's a big one.
As the ship continues sailing, it suddenly lurches to a halt, caught on something below the surface. Omid and Siobhan hurry to the engine room and discover strands of glowing blue and green material tangled in the machinery. Omid asks her if she recognizes the strange substance. Meanwhile, Freya checks the navigation map and realizes they have already crossed into the restricted zone. Siobhan carefully examines the odd fluid, collecting a small sample for her research. Gerard, sensing Freya's rising anxiety, tries to calm her down by assuring her that everything will turn out fine.
What is that? Chemical spill, maybe?
When they examined the situation more closely, the crew realized that a long tentacle was firmly attached to the boat and that the strange glowing fluid was seeping out of it. Gerard quickly turned to Siobhan, asking her to investigate since she was the only one equipped with proper diving gear. Although hesitant and fearful, Siobhan finally agreed. She slipped into the water and, to her horror, discovered several luminous tentacles wrapped tightly around the hull of the vessel. Summoning her courage, she used the knife Gerard had given her to try cutting one away. The moment she made contact, another tentacle suddenly lashed out at her, forcing her to retreat in terror. She managed to escape and return to the surface, shaken, and reported to the crew that an enormous creature with countless tentacles had attached itself to their ship.
It's more like some kind of Nidarian, but it could be a squid.
Gerard, trying to stay calm, speculated that the creature was a massive octopus and immediately decided they should attempt to capture it with a heavy net. Siobhan, however, insisted that what she had seen was unlike any ordinary sea creature and urged them instead to call for outside help. During the crew's attempt to ensnare the beast, tragedy struck when Johnny's hand became tangled in the rope. He was badly injured, and as they freed him, Siobhan noticed the same glowing substance mixed with his blood at the site of the accident, raising new fears about what they were dealing with.
Bastards.
Unbelievable.
The crew soon found themselves completely trapped within the exclusion zone, their vessel still immobilized. To make matters worse, the radio failed, cutting off all communication with the outside world. Anxiety spread quickly among them. Just as the situation seemed unbearable, they spotted another vessel in the distance. Clinging to hope, Gerard, Johnny, and Siobhan boarded a small boat and went toward it, desperate for some help.
Hello? Anyone aboard?
When they climbed aboard the other ship, however, relief turned to dread. The vessel was completely deserted. The radio had been smashed beyond repair, and in the lower decks they stumbled upon several corpses. Each of the bodies had their eyes missing, leaving a horrifying and unexplained sight.
Say nothing about this.
Nothing at all?
Nothing at all.
Terrified, they returned to their boat and made their way back. Gerard, attempting to maintain authority, suggested that the victims had likely died from sea fever, though his theory did not explain the absence of their eyes. He insisted that the discovery be kept quiet, fearing that telling the others would cause uncontrollable panic. Back on their own trawler, they realized the glowing creature had finally detached itself from the hull. Even though the ship was no longer held in place, the crew remained uneasy and on edge. Gerard nevertheless pressed forward, choosing to venture deeper into the exclusion zone. Freya warned him that the creature could return and attack at any moment, but Gerard refused to turn back. He argued that without a substantial catch, they risked losing not only their home, but the ship itself. Freya gave the order for the nets to be cast, and to everyone's surprise, they managed to haul in an unusually large catch of fish. The success brought a brief sense of relief to the weary crew. That night, Siobhan spoke privately with Johnny about the strange incidents they had experienced so far.
Coast Guard will deal with it, and listen, I've seen worse.
You've seen worse?
Johnny admitted that life at sea often revealed unsettling and frightening sights, even worse than what she had already witnessed. Trying to lighten the mood, he teased that he thought she might be interested in him, adding that he was open to it if she liked him back. They leaned closer, the moment charged with tension, but just as they were about to kiss, another crew member interrupted, calling them to dinner.
Yeah, sounds about right. Hey, you guys okay?
Later in the evening, Johnny began acting oddly. Siobhan noticed right away that he looked unwell, but when she voiced her concern, he brushed it off and insisted he was fine. During dinner, however, he grew increasingly restless. At one point, he even attempted to head outside and swim, but Chiara and Siobhan stopped him before he could leave the deck. Troubled by his behavior, Gerard confronted him inside, bluntly asking if he had been taking drugs.
Did you give him something?
No, he's hot. I think his hand might be infected.
Siobhan, more observant, noticed Johnny's injured hand and asked if she could examine it. He refused, brushing her off once again. Moments later, he began to rub at his eyes, frowning as though something was bothering him. Siobhan insisted that he had developed a fever and warned the others that his hand might be infected. When she checked his eyes more closely, she was horrified to see something moving beneath the surface, writhing inside. Gerard tried to look as well, but he claimed he could not see anything unusual.
Yeah, well, let me go on then. Jump in the shadows, relax the head, get some sleep.
Still unsettled, Johnny went to wash his face in the kitchen. His vision blurred, and before anyone could react, his eyes ruptured violently. Siobhan and his aunt rushed to his side, desperately trying to help, but it was already too late. Johnny collapsed and died almost instantly, leaving the rest of the crew shaken and horrified. The crew fell into panic after realizing that the glowing substance was actually a parasite that had already contaminated the ship's water supply. Siobhan quickly shouted at them to step back from Johnny's body and warned everyone to stay far away from the water source. Alarmed, she asked where the others were, and they realized that Sudi was still bathing. They rushed to warn him, but he ignored their concern. Moments later, they managed to shut off the water at its source. As soon as the flow stopped, Sudi stepped out of the shower, only to be attacked by one of the parasites. The creature left him badly wounded, and the others scrambled to drag him out and cover his body with a towel.
It's okay.
Ciara broke down, grieving deeply for the loss of her nephew. Gerard and Omid took Johnny's body away and carried it to the underground, leaving Siobhan devastated and shaken by how quickly the situation had spiraled out of control. Later, when they examined the pipelines, they discovered that the filters had been damaged and broken apart by the parasites. Siobhan and Omid went together to inspect the water tank, only to find it crawling with the organism. Horrified, they quickly sealed it shut.
What are they?
I think maybe they're larvae.
A heated discussion followed about the water supply and what the crew could safely drink now that the main tank was contaminated. Siobhan tried to reassure them by explaining that the larvae could only survive in salt water, so in a few hours they would likely die off, meaning the supply might become usable again.
It was sea fever. They took their own lives, all right?
As the tension lingered, Omid asked about what they had seen on the earlier trawler. Siobhan finally revealed the danger she had witnessed on the abandoned vessel, the eyeless corpses, and the unnatural signs of infection. Gerard quickly dismissed her account, not wanting to stir further panic among the group. Instead, he asserted his authority and assigned Siobhan and Omid the task of checking the water system every 2 hours, while instructing the rest of the crew to rest as best they could.
I was just waiting for the right time.
Later, as Sudi sat with Omid, he opened up about a girl he once liked, confessing that he regretted never telling her about his feelings. Omid tried to comfort him. When Siobhan and Omid returned to inspect the filters again, they discovered that the parasites were still alive and steadily eating through the material. Omid grew increasingly concerned, fearing that the creatures would eventually consume the entire tank. Siobhan, however, tried once more to calm him, insisting that the parasites would not survive much longer and that they just needed to wait it out.
They're weaker. I think there's fewer of them. I just have to wait.
The next day, the crew gathered to hold a funeral for Johnny. Later, Siobhan spotted the green liquid clinging to the ship. Determined to understand it, she carefully collected the liquid and brought it to her equipment for study. Under the microscope, she discovered that the liquid was teeming with growing larvae and filled with developing eggs.
Sudi's got open wounds, we've all got cuts.
Meanwhile, Sudi's condition continued to decline. He grew weak and increasingly resentful. He lashed out at Siobhan, blaming her fiery red hair for their misfortune and accusing her of bringing a curse upon them. Shaken, but refusing to give in to superstition, Siobhan went to Omid and asked him to help her build a UV light. She explained that similar organisms in nature are often destroyed by intense ultraviolet rays. Working together, they improvised a device using a smartphone and directed it at the eggs. Their attempt failed, failed, and the eggs remained unaffected.
Stupid idea anyway.
Realizing they were running out of time, Siobhan calculated that they had just over 30 hours before the infestation might spread beyond control. She proposed a bold plan, releasing a powerful electric current into the surrounding waters to kill the parasites outright. Freya strongly objected at first, warning that such a discharge could damage the ship's hull and engines, but with no other options left, she reluctantly agreed. Meanwhile, Sudi's health grew even worse, his body weakening as the infection spread. Together, Siobhan and Omid released the current into the ship. Later, Freya anxiously asked if it had worked. Siobhan admitted that she thought it had some effect, but urged them to stop the ship altogether in order to prevent any further contamination. She warned that if infected crew members returned back, the illness could spread unchecked and endanger countless lives. The argument quickly grew heated. Freya refused to halt the voyage, insisting that she would not allow Sudi to die without reaching land in proper care.
I am not losing one more crew member.
Later, Siobhan quietly approached Omid, begging him to help her stop the ship before it was too late. Omid, however, refused her plea. He explained that he could not bring himself to risk Sudi's life, even if it meant putting others in danger. Ciara sobbed as Sudi's eyesight failed completely, leaving him blind and writhing in agony. Sudi does not survive, and the crew gathers once again for a funeral. The weight of grief hangs heavily over them, and by now they realize that avoiding further infection will be nearly impossible. Siobhan warns the group that they must not approach the shore, arguing that they should remain isolated at sea for at least 36 hours until the parasites are certain to die off. Her reasoning is firm, but Gerard and Freya reject the idea. They remind her that each of them has lives waiting for them back on land, and that Omid's pregnant wife is depending on his safe return.
Omid's wife is pregnant. We need to get them home.
Desperate to prevent a disaster, Siobhan secretly disables the ship's propeller by tangling it with a rope, forcing the vessel to stop. When the crew discovers what she has done, their anger boils over. Ciara, overcome with rage, strikes her across the face, while the others shout at her.
I want us to stay on the boat until we're sure that none of us is infected.
Later that night, the tension begins to fracture the crew even further. Gerard, weighed down by guilt, confesses to Freya that his choices have brought them to this point. Freya tries to comfort him, admitting that she allowed him to go through with the plan, and so the blame does not rest solely on him. In the midst of the unease, Ciara demands that Siobhan examine every member of the crew for signs of infection.
Look again, it's really faint.
Reluctantly, Siobhan checks their eyes one by one. Everyone appears clear of infection, except for Gerard, who was not checked. Gerard notices that Siobhan has avoided checking his eyes directly and presses her for an answer. She coldly tells him that she does not need to, she already knows. Freya insists on seeing for herself, and when she does, she is horrified to discover the signs of infection.
Oh god,
It's all right,
I'm
it's
sorry.
okay, it's okay.
I'm sorry.
The revelation silences the group. Gerard, unable to deny it, finally admits the truth. He reveals that he deliberately led them into the exclusion zone, chasing the promise of a larger catch and the money it would bring, even though he knew it placed all of their lives at risk. The admission leaves the others shaken and furious. Ciara and Omid in particular lash out in outrage.
Fucking bastard! And Johnny's dead!
We're family!
Ciara and Omid move toward the upper deck. On the stairway, Ciara suddenly turns on Siobhan and attacks her, attempting to kill her. In the struggle, Siobhan realizes that Ciara too has become infected. Fighting desperately, she pushes back, forcing Ciara off balance. Ciara loses her footing, falls from the height of the stairway, and dies instantly upon impact. Freya and Gerard spend their final moments together. Knowing he is infected, Gerard begs his wife to end his suffering before the parasites consume him. Tearfully, Freya grants his request, killing him and leaving herself devastated and alone. When Siobhan and Omid later find her, they are shocked to discover Gerard's lifeless body. Soon after, Freya decides to take one of the small boats. Omid warns her that surviving 36 hours by herself will be nearly impossible, but she ignores him and sets off alone, leaving the others behind. Meanwhile, Siobhan and Omid continue their efforts to eliminate the parasites. A noise from the water tank draws them in, and Siobhan suggests heating it to buy time until they reach the coast. When they open the tank, however, they find the eggs have already grown into larger creatures. The parasites break through the weakened floor, revealing that they have been eating into the ship's structure, and the vessel begins to sink.
Get the food.
We're sinking?
We're sinking.
In a desperate attempt to draw attention, Siobhan and Omid set the ship ablaze and then escape onto a small boat. Omid hesitates, admitting he cannot swim. As he crosses the water, he falls in and begins to drown. Siobhan leaps in to save him, but in the struggle, she is bitten by one of the tentacles of the parasite. Though she manages to pull Omid to safety, her hand is infected. Omid, grateful for his life, thanks her.
I'm infected.
Hey, we just,
Siobhan breaks down, realizing she has been infected. Omid, terrified, tries to calm her, insisting that she might be immune and begging her not to leave. But knowing she cannot risk spreading the parasite, she makes her choice. Siobhan dives into the sea, swimming toward the monstrous creature, sacrificing herself. Omid remains alone on the boat, waiting and hoping that another ship will find him. And with that, the movie ends. We hope you enjoyed our recap. Like the video and subscribe to our channel for more amazing recaps. See you in the next one.